G'day and welcome to Oly35mm, user-based, quasi-empirical, cheap and cheerful videos on Olympus Zuiko branded lenses on mirrorless camera sensors, digital sensors that is. And today, sadly or otherwise, is the very last episode of this ever. I'll be doing no more Oly35mm. It was originally going to be a 1 year project, or a 1 year review project of Olympus 35mm cameras, and various people on the YouTube channel asked me if I would continue on, so I changed it. It morphed in 2016 into looking at these wonderful lenses on these wonderful cameras, and it was a bit slower this year, but we got a little bit out, and we managed to have a whole lot of fun doing it. So let me share with you a few thoughts of what's happened over this year, and what what I probably should have done or shouldn't do if I ever decide to do it again. And maybe if you decide to do it, you can maybe get some tips from me. Okay, before I go, there's this little fella here is my mini-me. This is Oly35mm. It's a little Lego minifigure taken from the Indiana Jones series, and a couple of other bits and pieces stuck in there. And yes, I do own a fedora and wear it. I do have a Air Force leather jacket and wear it. And yes, I do have Doc Marten boots and wear them. And actually, I've even got a little Olympus case that looks somewhat like that. So there we go. Mini-me, Oly35mm, and a few of the other Lego characters have been quite handy this year, as I've used them as models for some of the close-up photography. And in fact, it's actually got me into enjoying actually taking photographs of Lego. There you go. I've regressed a little bit back to my childhood. Okay, enough burbling. So, Christmas time, got the red jumper on, and time to wind up the Oly35mm project for 2015, and this particular one 2016. So just to remind everybody, what did we do? We had three mirrorless sensors, or the larger mirrorless sensors, and in digital cameras we had micro four thirds. I started off with an Olympus OMD EM10, and then went up to an EM5 Mark II, and been extremely happy with this particular camera. If you're particularly interested in buying yourself a digital camera, I went out and I purchased myself a Sony NEX F3, this fella in the background here, and although it's been a great camera, and it has lovely quality. In fact, sometimes the photographs in this fella came out far better than what I was getting out of the micro four thirds, or I at least like the look of them more anyway. But I didn't like the camera itself, only because I'm a glasses wearer, as you can see with little Oly35 there. He's got glasses on. I'm a glasses wearer, and this doesn't have a built-in viewfinder, and I actually found that very hard to use, especially when you're outside. So if you had an A6300 or one of the APS-C censored cameras that actually has a viewfinder, that would have been a lot better for me, but anyway, doesn't matter. And the Sony A7, which I think is the pick of the bunch for using the old legacy lenses on, or at least the full frame ones, so the OM series and like this fella here, the FTL series, and even, in fact, I even went out and bought myself a Russian lens as well, and had a lot of fun with that, but that's not a Zuiko, so we won't talk about that any further. Now, the reason why I say that is that I wanted to buy the A7 or something with a full frame sensor in it to allow me to use these Zuiko lenses like they should have been used. A 50mm is a 50mm, not as a quasi 100mm, in the 2 times crop factor. So, in a way, this has been my favourite camera to use this year, simply because I'm using these lenses like they were originally, at least focal length wise anyway, that they were originally intended for. Having said that, I have used the pen f lenses. I've had three 25mm f4, 38mm f1.8, and a 100mm f3.5, which I've enjoyed a lot on the Micro Four Thirds sensor. I've actually used them quite well also on the APS-C sensor, and with a bit of vignetting, as you would expect, because a half frame, this is a half frame lens, and it was designed for 24 by 18mm film, or half frame film. You would imagine it vignettes on the full frame sensor. However, it doesn't actually vignette a lot, so it is actually reasonably usable, providing you don't mind that low-mo look, on the full frame sensor as well. So quite amazing, and quite a turn up. I wasn't expecting that. In fact, there were a lot of things that I weren't expecting this year. And that was for it to take so much time. I found, unfortunately, I only got 5 full reviews out on the 3 different sensors with videography and also stills photography. I found that each individual took me a huge amount of time. And my day job has also been very, very busy as well. So I picked the 5 budget lenses, or what I consider to be the original budget lenses. That is the 50mm f1.8, the 28mm f3.5, the 135mm f3.5, the 200mm f5, and I threw in the 50mm f3.5 macro as well, because that was considered a budget lens in the macro range, if you will. And so I got those 5 out. I've managed to take a lot of photographs. You can find them on my Flickr account and have a look at those. You can also see my film shots as well, and at the very least, out of the collection, I've managed to actually get some photographs of a lens test sheet. So even if I haven't actually taken any samples, you can at least actually have a bit of pixel peeping and have a bit of a look at the lenses and how they handle at different apertures on a full frame sensor only. So when I did the reviews, I did all 3 sensors, but all of the other lenses are only on the full frame sensor. You can see those on the Flickr page as well, and there'll be a link to that at the end of this video. And it will give you an idea of how these lenses actually work at the different apertures, what they're like in the center, what they're like at the corners, whether there's aberrations, whether there's distortion, and also how contrasty they are. So you can make up your own mind. So in that way, I think I have, even though I feel as though I haven't got many videos out, I have also, I think I've ended up working, getting the most as I can out of this, and hopefully you'll agree with me and you'll enjoy some of the extra content that I've given. I've also put together the lenses that I couldn't review. I put them together in series of lenses and sort of put them into groups of wide, telephoto, macro, so forth and so on. So that'll give you a bit of an overview or a summary, a bit like I did with the lenses, a bit like I did with the cameras that I couldn't review in the 2015 year. I lumped them all together in 35 series, IM series, stuff like that, and actually just talked about them briefly, individually and then as a group. Do I have any particular favourites? No, I don't think so. I think there's merits in just about everything that I've tested. They are Zuiko lenses are great lenses. I like them a lot, and it's one of the reasons for starting to collect this gear. It really is about the glass rather than about the camera, for me anyway. But the 2 I've probably used the most this year, just even for my general photography, is the 25mm f4 pen f lens, which I've been using as a nifty 50, and that's been very, very versatile, and the 50mm f3.5 macro. Now that's partly because of these little fellas that I've been shooting, but also it is a great all-rounder as well. So they're the 2 that I've used the most. No particular favourites here as far as this year is concerned. I think I've made it quite plain that the 50mm f1.4 in the OM series is my absolute favourite lens, and I have some other favourite lenses. The 100mm f2.8 in the OM series is also another favourite, and I'm really pretty keen on this little 25mm f4 in the Pen F series as well. But all in all, a lot of fantastic lenses out there. It's been good fun. Is there any that I wouldn't recommend? Well, for the digital sensors, I wouldn't go for the zooms, partly because they tend to be heavy, especially the long zooms, and they don't feel right on the smaller mirrorless cameras. Not too bad on the Sonys, I suppose. But really, for two other reasons. One is because you can get far better zooms in the digitals, and they just are so much nicer. And the zooms don't necessarily have that same look that the primes have. And the other one is if you have image stabilization built into your camera, it is very, very hard to use it with a zoom because it's all manual. You have to set the focal length, and of course with the zoom you're changing your focal length all the time, and that can actually work against you. You can actually introduce problems and shake in there because the sensor thinks that it's trying to compensate for one focal length and you're using another. So the zooms are a little bit of a dead loss, of course, fine for film, and I'm keeping a couple of the zooms from the collection to use on my film camera, my OM4 Ti, and that will be about it. Most of them I'll be giving up. So there's no real dead losses there. A couple of disappointments. I would have liked to have used lenses like this that came out with the IS series and screwed onto the front of other lenses. I would have liked to have tried those out. I really just ran out of time, and I actually had to sell most of my Oly collection on simply because they were kicking around in shoeboxes, and it was money just going to waste. So I sold it on and managed to buy another couple of lenses that I was really looking forward to owning, which has been great. So all in all, it's been excellent fun. Thank you very much if you've taken the journey with me. Welcome if you've only just started coming on the journey. All of these videos will stay on YouTube as long as YouTube will keep them up there, of course, but I won't be. I'll probably maintain the comments for a little bit longer, but eventually I'll put notes up to say that I won't be commenting anymore on the YouTube videos. I'll also probably close down the Google Plus account. I'll be definitely closing down the Facebook account, the Instagram account, and I'll be leaving the Flickr page up as well. So thank you once again. Thank you very much for listening for the last time. Thank you very much for watching for the last time. It's been 2 fantastic years. In fact, there's been 5 fantastic years because I collected for 3 years before that. It's been a great project. It's been a lot of work. It's been very tiring in places, and I nearly gave it up a couple of times. And if it wasn't for folks like you who have been so supportive and given such great comments, I certainly would have given it up. So happy snapping. Get out there. Use whatever you like. Take photos. Enjoy. Cheers. Bye.